Well, hello, my beautiful friends in YouTube land. It's wonderful to be with you for this week's Astro Weather Report. We're looking this week at the energies that are playing out between the 23rd to the 30th of October. So keep in mind as I do this reading that this is a personal reading. When I go to the all signs breakdown component of this reading, we're looking at personal energies and how the planets might be affecting you in your personal life. This is not a big collective analysis of what's going on in the world right now and the energies that we're all currently living through. Those energies, as I say every week lately, I've been trying to point out that those energies are a result of many things, including Pluto being in Capricorn, it's the Saturn-Uranus square that's building, Eris and Pluto square that's been carrying on all year and will continue into next year. And of course, last week we had the full moon in Aries. And how did you cope with that angry, volatile full moon in Aries? Let me tell you a little story about what happened to me. I went to take my daughter to have her first session of laser hair removal around that time, and we had a consultation, and then we went and booked 10 sessions in a package deal for my 13-year-old daughter to venture into the world of beauty treatments and laser hair removal. The very next day, which happened to be the day of the full moon in Aries, I received notification from the clinic that they would not be able to treat anyone from now on who was not vaccinated. My daughter is 13. In Australia, she's not mandated to be vaccinated. She's not required to be vaccinated. And in fact, many areas of the world discourage people from getting vaccinated under the age of 16. So she's not vaccinated. So I went down to the clinic and I asked them, I'll let you know the name of the clinic. It was the Clear Skin Clinic, which is a franchise all over Australia. I went down there and I asked for a refund because she was 13, unvaccinated, didn't require a vaccination, and she was not going to be able to be served at this particular company. And this particular company said they would not refund the money because she was not vaccinated, and their policy was to not refund money to unvaccinated people. So it was the best that I could do to not become a Karen in that circumstance, because a 10 package deal was quite expensive. So for me, that was very much the energy of the irate Aries full moon, the frustration, the anger, the irritation, of course, with the Sun and Mars in the sign of beauty and aesthetics, or one of the signs of beauty and aesthetics ruled by Venus, Libra, and opposite that, the moon in volatile, angry energy of Aries with its opposition to Aries ruler Mars. So it was a tough week. And if you've got a story to share about how you struggled with that, then by all means leave it in the comments section below and let's hear how that energy played out for you. And of course, if you're looking for laser hair removal in Australia, try and find a company that is fair and just. So the best days this week, and remember I'm in Australia, therefore I'm using Australian times. Usually if you're in, say, the US and watching this, you could interpret this as being about a day behind what I say, particularly if you're on the west coast of the US. So also be conscious of the void of course moon and avoid instigating anything under the void of course moon, because generally speaking, the principle with the void of course moon is that when the moon is void of course, if we establish something or instigate something under that energy, usually nothing will come of it. No results will be forthcoming from that endeavor. And you can use an app like iLuna to help you determine in your part of the world when the moon will be void of course. So the best days are the 23rd of October. That's a good day to reinvent yourself. If you want to turn over a new leaf and start life afresh in some way, or take some action to dissolve and remove some sort of unwanted habit or life circumstances, that's a good day to do so. The 24th and the 25th of October are good days to initiate something new, to take action, to start a creative endeavor, to begin something new. It's really good energy on the 24th and 5th of October. The 29th and 30th of October are good days to do something that's a bit more pleasurable and indulgent, something that will make your world more beautiful, something that will allow you to share more love and affection with the people that you care about. That's a good day to initiate action in those realms of your life. Venus will be out of bounds all week long. This means that she is beyond the declination boundaries of the sun. When Venus goes out of bounds, it's like having a Venus-Uranus conjunction, and things to do with Venus can get really out of hand and wild and unexpected. Quite frankly, this week, I didn't expect to lose hundreds of dollars in regard to a beauty treatment that was then not going to be refunded to me. So that's an example of a Venus out of bounds behavior playing in, and it was playing in last week during the Aries full moon as well. It's going to continue into this week. You might notice that, because Venus rules finances, that you have more bills than usual, or more financial pressures, or it can go the other way too, because that influence is rather erratic and can be polaric. You might have money coming in from all avenues that you never expected, and suddenly, you've got money coming out your eyeballs. Hopefully that's what happens for everybody, rather than the too many bills and the too many demands financially on you. So that's an out of bounds Venus, but also the moon is going to be out of bounds this week. And it's out of bounds on the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, and the 28th. So nearly all week. And this can be a somewhat crazy making kind of energy. An out of bounds moon, if it's in your natal chart, and you might want to check if you've got an out of bounds moon in your natal chart, it can make people famous. A lot of famous people will have the moon in an out of bounds condition. But famous for what? Moon rules does have connections to fame. But what are you famous for? Maybe you're famous for being a serial killer. Maybe you're famous for, being some sort of a bomber. Somebody goes and blows up a building or something like that. Maybe you're famous for being a rock and roll diva. Like, what are you famous for? That's not explained by the out of bounds moon. Just simply that notoriety, which is only one element of what an out of bounds moon can bring, but it's one that we notice a lot. What does it mean for you in terms of what you'll be noted for and receive notoriety for? But that's in a natal chart. When it's happening collectively through this week's transits, well, obviously anyone born during this week is going to have an out of bounds moon on those days. And if we are conducting our lives, we can expect that our emotions can be very much heightened and erratic and out of control. So don't be surprised because of the out of bounds moon this week to see in the collective people taking their emotional behavior to an extreme, for better or worse. Some people might be showing a great deal of love and affection and appreciation and in that heightened beauty of happy emotional state. Or it could be that people are in a heightened angry expression of emotion similarly. So if you observe that happening in the world, that's usually where it will be coming from in the week ahead on those out of bounds moon's days. Now, this week's energy focus based on where the planets are at, it's not as bonkers as last week. Whew, thank goodness for that. So the first one, we've only got two energies of significance this week, really. And the first one is on October the 27th. And this is when we have the planet Venus making a square to Neptune. So here is Neptune in Pisces, and here is Venus down here in Sagittarius. Boom. There they are there. Excuse me, making a lovely little, not lovely, it's a square, it's a difficult aspect. So that could give some problems, particularly relating to loss of money, not knowing where your money's gone, being delusioned about love or relationships, thinking something about a person that you're in love with and it just doesn't turn out to be true, being deceived. Those kinds of energies on the shadow side of Neptune Venus can come out. And then also we've had the sun, I'll just change this, has moved into the sign of Scorpio. And then on October the 30th, we have the sun making a square to Saturn. So here is Saturn over here in Aquarius. We have a square 90-degree aspect being made from the sun to Saturn. So what does this mean? Well, if you're feeling a bit constricted on the 30th of October, it's because of this energy. You might even feel like you could actually squish your confidence into a little matchbox. It's that small. There's a lack of confidence, a lack of the sun's usual vitality and energy. It's like vampiring your vitality out of you. Probably a pertinent thing as we come up to Halloween, that the planet Saturn is vampiring the vitality out of the sun. But just know that this energy will pass eventually. So, allow yourself to feel lackluster on the 30th of October. And if you need to sleep this energy off, do so. You might, those days when your muscles feel like lead and you're dragging your feet and, your usual sprightly posture and countenance is just gone, and you just feel like an energy of drudgery. Well, that is the energy of this day. So it will pass. It's just a single day. Allow yourself to do whatever you need to just to get through it. If you want to spend the day on the couch with some popcorn, watching movies in your pajamas, why not? So you might be feeling a lack of support in your life because of this energy. And as I said, if you're not feeling supported in your world, then create something in your life that does give you some support, whether that's getting a block of chocolate and grabbing your teddy to cuddle and putting on that film that you love. If that's what it looks like to you, to give yourself a bit of indulgence and a bit of support for feeling lackluster, then do it. We've got to work with the energies and honor the energies and allow them to flow through as best we can. So if you're feeling like the waiting for things to change. Certainly I know in Australia we're feeling that way, especially in Victoria where I live. Waiting for the world to change. I think that was a John Mayer song, Waiting on the World to Change, and it feels like it never will. Then this energy is going to exacerbate that feeling that we have. So if you're feeling that way, know that it's on this day, on the 30th of October, know that it's coming from this energy. Why not go and stretch out on the lawn, soak up some sun's rays, get the positive energy of the sun, read a book, on the lawn and ground yourself and just try and find the peace and the tranquility and the joy in the situation where you can. Essentially, there's no point in fighting this heavy energy. The only way to dance with the Sun-Saturn square is to practice acceptance and patience and stoicism, endurance. Saturn is endurance, and that's the name of the game. So find the best way to endure this energy and plow through this energy one step at a time and be present in that energy. And then you'll find that it will pass before you know it. And then it's going to be another 6 months before we have to face that energy again. And it'll be done and dusted, all over, 6 months free from Sun-Saturn Square. Yay! So the key words for this transit are feeling a bit low and pessimistic, maybe a bit sad, maybe a bit isolated. That is the energy of this transit. We might have difficulties achieving our goals and difficulties fulfilling our ambitions under this energy. We can feel heavier than usual regarding our responsibilities in the world, like they're just weighing down on us more, more bills, more responsibility to other people, having to sort of carry our share of the load just feels overwhelming under this energy. We can be weighed down by pressures and duties. Authority figures, now this is one to be cautious of if you're in a country like Australia. Or any other country in the world. I understand Bulgaria's gone into Australia mode in their enforcement of things. And if you're in a country where authoritarianism is playing out, then it's the authorities that could make us feel very despondent on this day, the 30th of October, due to their criticism, due to their negative approach, due to their heavy-handedness. Forewarned is forearmed. So we need to, under this energy, the way to cope is to buckle down, do the work. And by the work, I mean, support yourself as best you can through acts of kindness to self, acts of kindness to others, practicing acceptance, practicing endurance, practicing stoicism, all those things that I described, knowing that it will pass. It is cyclical. Now, let's break down all signs for this energy. And we're going to start this week with Scorpio because that's where the sun has just moved. So welcome to your sun in Scorpio season, everybody. And especially to our beautiful Scorpio people who are in their birthday month. Happy birthday to Scorpio people. But if you are sun, moon, or rising sign as a Scorpio person, this is the energy that's playing out for this week, the 23rd to the 30th of October. And the energy that we're looking at is this Sun-Saturn square, and it's affecting mostly the sun in your first house. So you might be feeling older than usual now, more mature, more responsible, more dutiful. But even in your body might be feeling older. You might look in the mirror and go, oh my goodness, more wrinkles, another gray hair. This energy can, not that you are necessarily, I mean, we're all a day older every day, aren't we? But not that you are necessarily any older than, in appearance or whatever than you were the day before. But you might notice something that you hadn't noticed the day before. And you're just feeling older. You might even feel more exhausted in your body, more heavy in your body. You might also feel a bit older in your soul, a bit worn out, a bit tired in your soul. So don't be surprised if you feel a bit exhausted around the 30th. You can use this time, though, to perhaps establish some sort of new health regime. Because even though it's a square aspect, Saturn can still give some restructuring effects and solidification effects to our beautiful Scorpio friends. So, you might come up with a new diet that you want to get involved in, or a new exercise routine. You might be feeling heavy and tired, not like you want to go and do an exercise routine, but you might sort of plan and structure, okay, when I'm feeling better in a day or two, then I'm going to start going for regular walks, or I'm going to take my bike out more often and go bike riding, or, and you can restructure and plan your health regimes with the sun in your first house now. So that's one thing, but your outlook on life can change under this influence too. Saturn is affecting the sun in Scorpio and causing you to have a more melancholic approach to life, feeling frustrated, feeling let down, lacking in confidence. Know that this is only going to be the case for a day or so. Okay, it sounds heavy duty, it sounds difficult. Forewarned is forearmed, and this is a difficult energy playing out this week. There's no sort of skirting around that topic, and I'm trying to help you be prepared so that you can navigate it better. So any illusions about yourself or your body or your talents, they can also go through a restructuring phase under this energy as well, in order that you will create a new identity based on a more realistic view of who you are. Because the sun is our identity in the house of you, Scorpio. And here is Saturn that's wanting to restructure your identity in a realistic way with this square. So you might be doing some self-evaluation. In fact, that's probably a very good thing to do, and something that you Scorpio people are very good at as well. So you might be addressing any illusions that you've had and stripping back those fantasies about who you are, your talents, your character, your self-identity, and restructuring and recreating a new identity that's founded in realism with who you are in this life at this moment. So that might be an energy playing out for you in the week ahead, Scorpio. Now, my beautiful Sagittarius rising, sun or moon people, the energy of the sun Saturn square is mostly going to be felt in the 12th house realm, because that's where the sun is, and Saturn, which has a longer impact, is affecting the sun. And when I say longer impact, he's having this long-term 2.5-year effect in Aquarius, and it's impacting the more quicker moving sun in the sign of Scorpio. So in the 12th house, you're getting prepared now, Saggies, to shift out of a cycle of endings and into a zone of fresh new starts. And this is coming for you in about a month when the sun moves into your sign. But first, you need to do some heavy-duty evaluation while the sun's in the 12th house, especially being squared by Saturn. Some restructuring is required. So under this quite heavy energy on the 30th of October, you might be contemplating the meaning of your life now, thinking deeply. And, Sagittarius people do tend to want to find the truth, So you might be evaluating your life, evaluating your successes and your perceived failures now, and reviewing the past, because the 12th house has to do with the past and how far we've come. You're coming up to, this is the conclusion before the new start, fresh start when the sun moves into your first house. So you're looking at the past. Excuse me. What has been going on since the sun was last in your first house? You're at that ending zone, reviewing the past in the 12th house. So sometimes this can cause a bit of confusion. and a feeling of being a bit isolated and somewhat lost with this square influence coming from Saturn. But use this energy instead to make a clean sweep of any hidden psychic issues. What's holding you back, Sagittarius, from creating all that you desire in your world right now? You'll most likely find that it is going to be something internal, some old chestnut that just won't die. So you'll be doing the analysis about this now. It's good to do so. But you'll also probably notice that if there's inhibiting factors holding you back from creating the life you want, that it's actually coming from your psyche, coming from within you. Some skeletons in the closet that rattle its bones, maybe, and self-sabotages you every time you take to try to make a step forward in life. So when you observe that and you see where you're self-sabotaging, that experience might leave you feeling a bit melancholy. It might feel, you feeling that, if you're reflecting on the many instances that you've self-sabotaged, you can feel like, oh, I always stuff things up. When am I ever going to change? Why do I always do that to myself? And you can feel down and heavy, square from Saturn, in the house of the mind, coming from the third house, the house of the mind, to the sun in the 12th house, looking at the past, looking at who we are, doing the deep psychic self-evaluation in the sign of Scorpio, and feeling that, life is melancholy because I never change, or I never grow, or I haven't outgrown that habit that I don't like. So expect that there could be some feelings of lowness, if you like, around that time. But you can use this energy actually to face your demons, those vague yet haunting fears that tend to undermine us. So while this energy, it can be an uncomfortable process to do this self-evaluation. Saturn represents restructuring and the sun represents self-identity. And this energy of the square it's like a push. It's like a contraction. Think about giving birth. It's a contractive energy, but it's going to push something new out of you, So it gives you that energetic push to clean house and to turn over a new leaf, to get rid of outdated attachments and, in readiness for the new start that is waiting for you just around the corner when the sun goes into your first house. So very exciting. So remove your outdated attachments, discard irrational fears, dump what is no longer serving you. You don't need to hang on to those old habits or those old identities that you've outgrown. You might feel more like keeping to yourself now as you go through this process, and that's just fine. It's healthy to indulge in a bit of escapism when the sun is in your 12th house, and to help you with this releasing process and refining process that this energy is now calling you to embody. So that's what I'm seeing playing out for our gorgeous Sagittarian friends. For those of us who are Capricorn rising, sun or moon, well, the square from the Saturn to the sun is going to be most felt for you in the 11th house. And you might be feeling something of a heavy weight regarding your personal goals during these couple of days around the 30th of October. So how you fit in with others, because it's a house of community in terms of large groups and friendships and so on, and networking, how you fit in with others, your affiliations with people and these large groups and your peers all become very serious matters now. The effect of Saturn on the sun in this house. A lot of people might start to feel that their friendship and group involvements have just become too frivolous and fluffy through this, through this influence of energy. And you might think, I've outgrown those people. They're too immature for me, or their perspectives are too childish, So that can happen. And connections and networks can leave an unsatisfied taste in our mouth now because of that. We might think, I'm not going to have anything to do with that anymore. they're not my people. That can happen under this influence. But it's okay. This is a quickly passing energy, so don't let it sour what are usually beautiful connections just because you've got this touch of seriousness and heaviness and even maybe a touch of melancholy about your friendships. You might feel alienated. You might feel a bit lonely, like, you're an outsider in your circles. That's not uncommon with this energy. Some might even choose at this time to restructure their connections in some way. Think deleting Facebook friendships that never amounted to much, or switching your text messages to silent for a certain person to ignore the 16th text message from that activist friend, There are some ways that we might choose to restructure our friendships in the house of the internet, for example. But there are other ways too in real life, not just cyber restructuring as well. You might be going into that zone now to restructure friendships and even refine, let's say, your friendship circles. It's like we can no longer be bothered with the social niceties, even though it can leave us feeling like we're outside of things. That's just the energy of this Saturn Sun Square. So who is contributing valuably to your life right now? Take a look at your social circles. Whose friendships, whose networking, what groups do you really feel are valuable in your life? What networks carry meaning for you? What aspirations, which is an 11th house thing, feel aligned with your joy now? Do the stock take and value that which is with you, that you treasure. It's a time for doing some mature restructuring that's going to take you to a better place by realizing what is valuable in your life and discarding that which is not, even though it might come with some rather painful culling for the time being. But Saturn wants to restructure friendships and refine friendships and goals and dreams for you right now. So get on board with that. And I feel that after this energy passes, you'll actually be glad to have lightened your load in some way. So that's what I'm seeing for Capricorn people. For Aquarius rising sun or moon people, the energy of the Saturn Sun Square is actually going to be most felt for you in the 10th house, Aquarius. And this is occurring exactly on the 30th of October, but you might feel it a day before and a day after. So you might be wanting some sort of secure foundation in the world, but this transit might give you the opposite feeling the frustration of not having quite reached the desired pinnacle that you want in life quite yet. And that can be perhaps a bit annoying if you've been working hard towards something. We might be more inclined to scrutinize our perceived failures, and that can get us down in the doldrums with this influence of Saturn Sun Square here. We might be more inclined, if we've been hoping for a career recognition or a promotion or some kind of rewards, we might be more inclined to be a bit disappointed because those sorts of things are going to be quite thin on the ground under this particular energy. You might even find that you get under this energy criticized by some sort of authority figure in your world, or the work that you have been undertaking in your career, it's disregarded. You've worked really hard on a project for 6 months and people look at it and go, thanks very much, and don't give it a second thought. And you're like, what? I put my heart and soul into this, So don't be surprised if there's this feeling that, of disappointment and of frustration and futility, because the sun is our career and it's moving through your career house now, Aquarius. And Saturn is putting the kibosh on things, the restriction, the heaviness, the weight on those things right now. You want to shine, but there's something stopping you from shining. Don't let it get you down. It's a passing energy, and you have the chance to bounce back about a week or so after this energy if you continually put one foot in front of the other very stoically towards your career. We become aware under this influence of what we want and what we have and what we haven't got, and we see what we want to accomplish, and we start to make changes and restructuring to help us get there. So that's actually probably the better energy, to actually think, okay, I can be more objective now. I see what it is in my career that is for me and has my back and it's going to work for me. And I see what is a waste of time and waste of effort. And I'm going to restructure my career life now to go for what is upholding me, to go for to put my energy into where I'm going to be appreciated, where I'm going to be honored, and stop wasting my time with things that are not. So this energy allows us to restructure those things in order to achieve our success. So you might be feeling more sensitized regarding your reputation during this energy. There might even be, for some people, some threats to their social standing that might really pierce your usual armor now. That's just a passing energy. Again, it's not going to hang around forever, so try and be stoic. This is also a transit that can cause us to feel very burdened by our duties and our obligations out there in the world. Not so much in our personal life and what have you, but when it's occurring in the 10th house, it's our duties and obligations to our fellow man and to the world at large. So it's not about having too many responsibilities, but rather it actually reflects having a very large scale of responsibility, very important responsibilities that make us feel pressured. So forewarned is forearmed. I'm not meaning to sort of be negative and heavy. I'm just trying to give you a heads up on how to manage the energies of this week coming up. All right. Pisces rising, sun or moon people, the energy for this week, and we're looking at the Saturn Square, and it's occurring or going to be felt the most in your 9th house. And for you Pisces, I think that this is going to be, you are probably the luckiest sign this week, because this is a heavy duty, difficult energy, and yet for you it's impacting the most blessed house in the horoscope. So you've probably got more resilience because of that than other signs. So lucky for Pisces this week. But I want you to ask yourself, Pisces, as you go into this zone, particularly around the 30th of October, what are you working towards in your life? What aspirations fill your binoculars now? You know, what are you looking towards? Now, the 9th house, just to explain why I'm talking about this, has connections to the sign of Sagittarius. And if you're familiar with the symbology of Sagittarius, it's the archer. He's pointing his arrow off into the distance. He's looking to the future. That's the symbology of that sign. So, you know, if your goals under this influence are fluffy, they're not really important in the scheme of things, then you might be being asked, Pisces, to restructure those goals now. Because Saturn is calling us to restructure and redefine things in this hard aspect to the sun in the 9th house of your future vision, where you're looking towards in your binoculars, so to speak. So you're likely to be going to make an entire review of what you're striving for under this energy. And some Piscean people will completely restructure their focus for life right now and where they're heading and what their direction is and what they want out of life. And usually this will come with a bit of an internal confrontation, because this is a hard aspect and it's difficult and it's tension. So that is likely to come up. You know, is your goal actually to really embrace your truth now? Or have your parameters changed? Like what is it about your goals and aspirations and purpose for living, which our meaning and our purpose for living is seen through the 9th house? What is it there that's changed over the last week or so? And I feel that with this energy, there is some change afoot regarding goals and purpose and parameters that you're striving towards. So it's time to get serious. Saturn wants you to get serious about things. Time to get real about what you want. And because of this, you might actually have to face up to some self-deflating, self-defeating attitudes. What have you been repressing in terms of a sense of adventure, Pisces? You know, maybe, I mean, I think about myself because I'm a Pisces rising person and I want to get the hell out of this state where I live. And yet I have a self-defeating attitude, like I can't go because of my kids. They've got their friendship circles, they've got their... And I'm using that as a self-defeating excuse to sort of squash my adventurous nature, my adventurous spirit. And the 9th house is where we see our adventurous spirit rise, you know, I'm squashing that, so to speak, and it's keeping me from pursuing that sense of adventure of, well, let's go somewhere else, somewhere that's not as repressive as where I currently live, for example. So that's one example. But you might like to ask yourself, you know, where are you exhibiting some sort of self-defeating attitude that's repressing your sense of adventure? Where are you keeping yourself from your ultimate dream through having too much negativity and always seeing the darkness, always seeing the shadow side? Lucky for Pisces people, because they're ruled by Jupiter, they do have a more optimistic, generally speaking, view of life. Generally speaking, unless there are some difficult things in their chart. But, you know, where are you thinking negatively that's holding you back? This isn't really the transit to pull you out of the doldrums. That's not going to happen, but it might just cause you to look objectively at the future options and prepare yourself, restructure yourself for making some active change when this transit winds up in a day or two after the 30th of October. So in that sense, it's a time for restructuring. It's a time for planning. There might be some frustration. There might be some tension around it, but you're going to be taking strides forward somehow towards the future that you now envision. So out of this period of self-questioning out of this period where there might be a lack of self-confidence and doubt that naturally comes with the Sun Saturn square, you might be able to use this blessing of the ninth house to redirect where you're heading so that it aligns with your truth, Pisces, it aligns with your beliefs, and it aligns with these refreshed ethics in some sort of more mature way. So it's still a heavy energy, but as you can see, you can use it for your greater good and your greater purpose in the long term. And I would encourage us all, Piscean people, to do so to help us all make a better world. And that's what Pisces are into, aren't we? We want that utopian vision for all humanity. All right, Aries rising, Sun or Moon people. Well, we are seeing the energy of the Sun Saturn square falling in, mostly it's going to be influencing your 8th house, Aries. So because of this, you might be feeling, Aries, some dissatisfaction, some frustrations in getting what you want at the moment, especially with reference to relationships and intimacy, connections with others, and the resources that we can gather as a collective, like, our community resources, or our, resources of our partners or business partners and so forth. We might be frustrated with those things right now, and that can color this particular energy. You might also be confronted with circumstances that force previously repressed issues in you to come out and come to the surface, because this is a house where we keep things hidden. It's there's 2 houses that are about, well, actually there's 3, but this is one of the ones that's about keeping things hidden, keeping those skeletons in the closet. And this Saturn influence wants to restructure those things, and the Sun here in the 8th house wants to illuminate those things. So expect that these hidden things might come, like repressed things in you might come up to the surface to be restructured around this time. So how are you handling your power, Aries? Is there a lack of power in your life? Are you feeling like you're powerless? Why are you feeling powerless? What circumstances are causing you to feel powerless? What self-sabotaging behaviors within you are causing you to feel powerless? These issues and the reasons for them might start to bubble up into your conscious awareness. What unhealthy attachments need to be undone now? That's another issue that can come up with this. You might be feeling very sensitive to the forces that are bringing these deep issues to the surface, all these attachments, all these desires, and so on. It's not necessarily a reactive transit, so it's not going to, like, Saturn Sun square is not necessarily going to see you, fighting back about something, or it's just an energy of frustration is building there. But these are deep issues that are going to come up now, and it could be painful to explore them. But I want to encourage you to do the work, especially where there are difficult problems associated with debt, with sex, with control in your intimate life. If they come to the surface to be purged, it's very important to do the work to purge those things, to see what you're contributing to those circumstances and how you're impacting those circumstances, say with a debt, or say with a sexual problem or something like that. Look hard and long at yourself under this influence, because the Sun has connections to our own identity, and where is yourself, your identity, impacting these circumstances of the 8th house that Saturn wants to transform, or restructure is the right word for Saturn. So I hope you're following with me. I hope I haven't confused you too much there. There's some purging that needs to be done of deep issues that might come and be illuminated now. But we can also feel quite aware of our mortality under the influence of the Sun in Scorpio. It's illuminating, that issue, our mortality, and the fact that we're very human and fallible. And this can enter your consciousness because the Sun is the ruler of your vitality. Generally speaking, that's what the Sun represents. And here it is in the house of death. And, the harsh reality of Saturn is bringing up these issues of death and mortality when it's connecting with this planet of vitality in the house of death. So I hope you're understanding where I'm drawing this concept from. So throughout this couple of days, if you're feeling melancholy because of that, if you're feeling like, down about certain circumstances in life and how we are so fallible and death is imminent and all that sort of thing, if you're feeling down, I want you to encourage you to tap into your inner stoicism. Saturn is stoicism. Practice some self-mastery and self-control. This is the house of control and power. Rather than trying to exert it onto other people in your sphere, practice self-mastery and self-control rather than reactively trying to control everything in your world. If you do that, you will fare much better. And you will also cope much better knowing that this is a briefly passing energy. And maybe there is a need to realize our mortality. Maybe there's a need to deal with those deep hidden issues that want to be illuminated and restructured now. And so allow that pain to be there, accept that it's there, go through that process, but knowing that it's going to cyclically end in a day or two. So a couple of days after the 30th of October, and you'll be able to cope with it so much better and do the work that you're being called to do under this energetic influence, Aries. All right, for Taurus rising, sun or moon people, we've got this heavy duty Saturn Sun Square impacting mostly your 7th house, the house of partnership. So because this is a frustrating, tense square aspect, frustration with partners is not uncommon under this energy. And that means our significant partners, significant other, our intimate partners, but also business partners, clients, audience, other people in general. So our significant other, for example, might do or say something that leaves us feeling sad or despondent or unappreciated under this influence. Now, if you are in a situation where you already have a partner, this is a time when any issues surrounding compromise or flexibility will tend to rear their heads. You might feel unduly criticized by your partner now too. And just know that if that is happening, okay, let's separate, let's take a breather. I'm going for a walk, you cook dinner, I'll see you later. Have that space, have that breathing space, and know that this energy will pass. Try not to take things personally. Try to be a bit stoic, okay, during this time. If you are single and you're going through this, then you might get in the doldrums over your relational status, Loneliness can come on board if you're reacting to life circumstances despondently. And Saturn, with this influence, Saturn is a planet of feeling, lonely, feeling isolated, feeling down, feeling melancholy, feeling low. And in this case, influencing how you feel about your relational situation. So that can happen. You might be feeling pressurized, because Saturn Sun Square is a pressurized, tense energy. And you might be feeling pressurized to find somebody if you're single. Under this energy, you might feel like, oh, time's running out, or there's a limited supply of options for partners out there in my life, Remember to keep your stoicism. Remember to keep your objective reality in check, Try and be grounded. Try and be realistic about life and about people and about the way life is going for you, even if it's just by acknowledging and accepting this energy for what it is and realizing that it's going to pass and pass fairly quickly within a day or so. It's the best way to handle any Saturn influences in the chart is to practice acceptance, not to fight them, not to, I'm feeling low and despondent because I'm alone or I'm single or my partner criticized me. Instead of feeling beating ourselves up because, hey, what are you getting so down for? And snap out of it, Instead of that kind of dialogue, just go, what? It's okay to feel low about your relationship status. It's okay to feel low because your partner criticized you. Allow that energy to flow through and you will always cope so much better with Saturn influences in your life. You'll barely even notice them if you can just accept that it's okay to feel down, to feel low, to feel melancholy, or any of those Saturn energies. So responsibilities to partners can come up because Saturn is responsibilities. So there might be more of a responsibility required in your relationships. There might be more of a need to compromise. And the realities of the needs of other people in your life become more clear. under this energy too. We kind of, the sun illuminates and causes us to sort of see things more clearly, and Saturn is going to be very realistic and objective about that. So we might be forced to begin seeing others now as individuals rather than extensions of ourselves, and that's actually a good thing. And we might also restructure, Saturn is to restructure or improve the manner in which we relate to others under this energy too. So there can be a lot of positivity that can come out of this in the long run if you know how to handle those doldrums that can come with a Saturn-Sun square. All right, moving now to our Gemini friends, Gemini rising, sun or moon people. This week we're seeing the energy of the Sun, Saturn square, mostly affecting your 6th house, Gemini. So you can expect to feel the pressure of this energy in the area of work, in the area of daily habits, in the area of your health. So your responsibilities, your duties, your accountability at work might feel particularly burdensome to you under this influence. That's okay. That's just what this energy is all about, and it will pass in a day or two after the 30th of October. But you could feel irritable. You could feel bogged down under this energy on those days, and usually bogged down by some sort of overwhelming load. You know, that's usually how this will express. Saturn also impacts us regarding our karma and regarding our past. Saturn is let's call it the fruits of what we have done in the past. And sometimes the fruit tastes good and sometimes the fruit's pretty disgusting. So Saturn is the fruits of our past, and the things we might have previously neglected or disregarded now come up for inspection and critique when we're having this influence in the 6th house. Why is that? Because if you think about the 6th house, it has connections to the energy of Virgo and the energy of Mercury, which rules Virgo. And of course, there is this highly perfectionist tendency in the 6th house. So we want to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that everything is just so when we have an influence in the 6th house. So again, we come back to this, what I've just stated. Anything from the past, our karma, our karmic fruit, can come up for us to critique and go, okay, did I give enough attention to that? Did I put enough detail into that? Did I act honorably and integrous in that circumstance? We might be doing some evaluation about something from our past now. It's also a good time to restructure your health with this influence to the 6th house. Restructure your health, your diet, your exercise routine, and perhaps do so with a view to ultimately making it feel more joyful in the future. Saturn is bearing down heavily on our vitality, the sun. So here in one of the houses of the body, you might be feeling lackluster, exhausted, and completely lacking in energy. And that's okay. Allow yourself to feel that. Don't fight it. It's just a passing energy. It will end. But allow yourself to feel that and use it for the highest good to restructure, Saturn, how you are looking after your body, to restructure your diet and health and so on. That's the best way to use this energy, and try to, as I said, focus on the sun. How can you make your exercise routine more joyful? How can you make your dietary habits feel like fun to you? The sun is joy. The sun is fun. And here in the 6th house, it's wanting you to emphasize those things, those components. Saturn might be causing some heaviness around feeling joy and fun with your diet and exercise. But if you look to restructure things for the future and in ways that will make those things feel more joyful to you, then you're really using this energy at its highest potential. That's really what we want to do with all the astrological influences that come up. So, how efficiently and practically are you using your time? This is a house of efficiency and productivity. So you might be questioning that now. It's a good thing to evaluate that. So you might be addressing that, and it's usually you'll be inspired, for lack of a better word, to address these issues of efficiency and productivity through some sort of stressful circumstances that might present themselves. And that's just Saturn doing his thing. He wants to emphasize that point. So it's time for learning how to be more productive, learning how to be healthier, and learning how to be well focused when Saturn is making an influence to the 6th house. Alrighty, moving along to our Cancer rising sun and moon friends. Thank you for joining us, beautiful Cancer people. The energy of the Saturn Sun Square is impacting more than anything, your 5th house during the week ahead, particularly around the 30th of October. So if you're feeling, you're feeling in a creative funk in any way, Cancer people, do you feel like your usual inspiration, because Cancer is a very inspiring sign, an imaginative sign, it's just kind of died a death? If that's the case, well, you can blame it on this, the Saturn Sun Square. Because here in the 5th house of creativity, how you find your joy, how you entertain yourself, how you engage with your inner child may all feel like they're stuck in quicksand right now, like, ugh. Or the balloon is deflated in some way. It may feel like you have no momentum, no spark, no creative fire under this energy. And hey, that's okay. It's just a passing energy. If you can recognize, all right, these couple of days around the 30th of October, I'm not going to feel very inspired to do much. And that's all right. Then the energy passes and you just get back on with the job creatively, so to speak. So keep in mind as you place one heavy foot in front of the other with this transit, that it is this swiftly passing energy. And you might be called during this time to address some sort of ego identification now. That's how you can use this for the higher good. You might be called to look at your self-identity. This is the sun, self-identity in the house of self-identity, the 5th house. So, addressing sort of what makes you you. You're thinking about that, ponder that, reflect on that over your cup of tea. Are you honoring your truth, your self-identification, your individuality? It's a time maybe for restructuring where you are not honoring your individuality. Where do you need to make changes about who you are and how you shine your light in the world? Use this energy for good. Saturn is to restructure, and we might be restructuring our self-identity now in this house. This is also a house connected to our pride, as is the sun, also connected to our pride. Is your pride getting in the way of who you could be? Are your ideas about, I don't want to do that because it would demean me, is that holding you back from really embracing your truth, embracing the fullness of who you could be? Where is your pride causing you to stumble? You can evaluate that under this energy. Your truth, your joy, your ability to know real love is seen from, particularly the real love component is seen from the 5th house. And again, where is your pride, or where are you self-sabotaging your ability to know these things, to know joy, to know love? Maybe it's time to reevaluate and restructure those things as well. Also, it's a very autonomous house. It's a house of what makes you unique. So are you sabotaging in any way your uniqueness and your autonomy? Maybe it's time to restructure that too. Saturn will be firing up that energy of maybe feeling blocked. And so how can you change things? How can you restructure things? How are you honoring your autonomy and your need for individuation right now? So all of these many questions that I've presented to you to think about, they might be coming up in order for you to rebuild your identity under this energy. And firstly, it's going to be like it's tense, frustrated, square aspect. So it might do so this week through some sort of dismantling of old identities so that the new one can be built. Saturn is to build something new. And it wants to build a new identity in place of the old identity with this combination. So this is a time, this week, particularly around the 30th of October, it's a time to create a solid sense of self. Now, there might be some melancholy that comes up from maybe feelings of being unseen or unloved or neglected or ignored. If that happens, observe it, detach, allow it to be there and to flow through you. If you feel down and low because of these things, that's quite okay. And the best way to deal with Saturn heavy-duty influences like that is to accept that it's there and know that it will pass. Wallow in a few tears if you need to over things like that. But this is a time, how you can use this energy to the best of your advantage. It's time to tap into your own inner well of self-love. It's the house of self-love. And lavish self-love upon yourself as an antidote to those feelings that are soon going to pass. So, I mean, I could give you a million suggestions of what self-love might look like. If you listen to my introduction, I believe I mentioned a couple. But you'll know what works best for you, that makes you feel not safe and secure in the world, but that makes you feel that life is enjoyable and special and nice. It might be a soak in the bath. It might be, allowing yourself to have dessert when you don't usually have dessert. It could be noticing that the day is a beautiful, spectacular day and going out for a walk when you usually might stay at home and vacuum the floor. Lavish self-love upon you now, and it's a great antidote to those feelings of melancholy under this influence. All right, getting near the end now, our lovely Leo people. Leo rising, sun or moon. The energy of the Sun Saturn Square this week is falling in the 4th house to Saturn in your 7th house. And you're mostly going to feel it in the 4th house realm, Leo. So this week, it's going to see you restructuring the foundation of who you are. I mean, literally, here's the 4th house, the foundation of the horoscope. For everybody, that's what the 4th house is. But for you, it's being affected this week. So there might be some tension. There might be some weariness regarding who you are at a foundational level. Your emotional well-being, your sense of stability, your sense of security in the world. You might be just burnt out, Leo, with trying to create material stability or emotional stability. And it's like, oh, I'm just tired. I feel like a deflated balloon. That's just the energy of Saturn Sun Square. If you feel that way, that's all right. Accept that you will feel that way for a little bit, and then this energy will pass, never to repeat for at least another 6 months. So in small ways, there might be actually under this influence, though, some life-changing personal and psychological advances and developments that occur within your inner self. And out of this inner struggle of I'm tired, I'm weary of all the self-work and all the restructuring of my foundation, you might find that there are some small wins that occur this week for you, some small karmic fruits from all the work that you've done. And this is actually a chance to re-identify yourself this week, Leo, to connect with your history, to connect with your heritage, to connect with your roots in some way. So let's say if you're like me, I'm a Leo sun, I'm going to take the opportunity this week to actually literally go back to where I grew up and reconnect with my heritage and reconnect with my roots and my history, because Saturn is connected to history, and the 4th house is our, where we, our strong foundations are and where we grew up and things like that, our heritage, our roots, our lineage. So connecting with that is a good way to use this energy this week. And it might be an opportunity this week to re-identify those heritages and roots and lineages that you carry within you. By that I mean you might get a different perspective on those things. Maybe that's a healthy thing to restructure. You might be shaking up some attachments to your past self in some way. And I fully expect that when I go home to visit my roots and heritage, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to get a different point of view, a different perspective on that part of me, that deep foundational part of me and who I am and where I've come from. So you might be also, in a more practical way, moving away from sort of the emotional basis and historic kind of inner self basis that we're looking at in the 4th house. You might be inspired to reorganize your home this week, because Saturn is to restructure, and the 4th house is our domestic life and our home life and our actual physical bricks and mortar home. You might even be thinking about moving this week. I'm a Leo person, certainly on the cards for me. Moving maybe due to a feeling of dissatisfaction with where you live and frustration with where you live. Sun, Saturn Square, definitely could be that. Unfortunately though, because this is a square which carries an energy of Saturn about it, that's what a square is, it's the energy of Saturn, there's a feeling of restriction, blockage, obstacles to actually making some sort of concrete change in that regard. So expect that could be the case as well, unfortunately. But take stock, and you'll probably find that there might be inner resistance actually that is keeping you from making changes, the changes that you think you want in the world, rather than anything coming from the outer world. It's most likely to be an internal blockage that is sitting there, an internal belief or an internal self-sabotaging attitude or something that's stopping maybe that change of residence or location or community coming in. It's also very hard to feel brave during this transit. We can feel, and Leo people are like, they're the brave lion, of the horoscope. But under this energy, we're going to feel a little bit like a mouse rather than a lion. We want to be strong, we want to be brave, but it's very hard with the sun being impacted by Saturn in the 4th house of our deep foundations. But look, how can you mitigate this? How can you sort of direct this energy into its most useful form? Well, I would encourage you to do some spring cleaning. Even if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and going through autumn, it's still a good time to, clean out the cupboard, dust off those, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, get out your winter coats and make sure they're all clean and tidy and not moth-eaten and what have you. Like, do the spring cleaning. In Australia, where you're actually in spring, and I'm packing away my winter coats for the year. But you can do that of your domestic environment, but you can also do it of your soul. Spring clean your soul as well as your home under this influence, and it'll help you to feel a little bit better. Feeling limitations on your life can cause a lot of frustration on these days around the 30th of October. You also might feel a little bit lonely and a little bit isolated too. This is a brief energy, and as I've been saying for every sign, it will soon pass. It will not last long, so hang in there, accept that it's just the energy of the moment, and that soon the sunshine will rise again. Okay, thank you, Leo. Now we're up to our beautiful Virgo friends, Virgo rising, sun or moon people. The energy of the Saturn Square is mostly going to be felt for you in the 3rd house this week. So you might be feeling a lot of pressure. Saturn Square is a highly pressurized energy, and pressure in your social circles this week. So the expectations of friends, the expectations of colleagues might be weighing very heavily on you under this influence. You may be weighted down too in your mind. This is the house of the mind, feeling despondent, feeling discouraged, feeling melancholy with this energy. If you're feeling that way, I want you to know it's okay to feel frustrated with that and melancholy and sad and all those things, because that's just the influence of the energy. It is not your fault. You don't need to beat up on yourself. You're not a bad person for feeling that way. Allow it to just flow through you. It's the energy of the days around the 30th of October. So you might also feel, because this is a house of productiveness, you might feel pressured to produce in some way, to come up with the goods in terms of some tangible product or some idea or some new learning opportunity, but the spark of creativity might be gone. It's like Saturn sucks that out. Here is the sun, our creative force, and Saturn's going, let's put that in the jar and screw the lid on tight. So expect that could cause a pressurized feeling if you are in a job, say advertising or marketing, and you've got to produce and come up with creative goods, and it's just not happening for you. The spark, the vibrance is gone. So this is also a period, Virgo, when your worries might increase. You might be more concerned about things. So have some strategies at hand to deal with this. If you're feeling worried, what do you usually do? What practice do you have in place, Virgo, that helps you center your thoughts? Practicing mindfulness, meditation, yoga, whatever it is that helps you balance those worrisome thoughts. Have those strategies at hand for this energy playing out. But your relationships with your siblings, with your neighbors, with your colleagues, they could be stressed now too. Saturn is creating a stressed energy. Even though you might have a desire to connect with these people, it can feel a lot harder than usual to do so. It can feel more frustrating than usual. So you're going to want to cut to the chase with your communication under this influence. You're going to want to avoid tiresome small talk. You haven't got time for that. And you'll probably be exhausted by the general busyness of life. That's just part of this week's energy, okay? Allow it to flow through and be there, knowing it's not going to last. You might even encounter more obstructions to your day-to-day life than usual, more red tape, more roadblocks, more authoritarianism. Forewarned is forearmed. Patience and a long-range view, which are very Saturn energies, patience and a long-range view beyond this present moment might be your best source of help and stoicism as we deal with the 30th of October. So I'm sorry to have such heavy news for everybody this week, but we can't help the energies that are playing out. Some weeks we get a lot of good stuff, and this week we've just got 2 heavy duty squares. So hence it's a pretty heavy duty reading this week. And now for our lovely Libras who've waited till last. Thank you so much, beautiful Libra friends. You must be feeling a great deal of relief to have a little less tension in your sign now. Hurrah, hurrah. But this week we're looking at the square falling between the Sun in your 2nd house and Saturn in your 5th house. What does this actually mean for you? Well, you're going to notice it mostly in your 2nd house, Libran friends. And the 2nd house is our self-worth and self-valuing. So this is a time when you might want to do a stock take of how valuable you feel, of your self-worth. But also in the Vedic system, this is the house of family, and you might want to do a bit of a stock take of your family situation or your finances, which are also seen from the 2nd house. Where are you not being practical and realistic with your worthiness, with your family situation, with your finances? You might need to address this now. So this is not a great energy for actually generating material success. Far from it. It's more of a restriction, more of a blockage, and you might be feeling frustrated regarding your material ambitions in that regard. You know, you might need a new couch in the lounge room, or the old rug's got a few holes in it. You need a new rug, but it's not the week to go be buying those things, those material goods, because there is some frustration connected to material, tangible purchases under this energy. You might also be quite dissatisfied currently with where you stand financially. And if you listen to the intro, Libra, I did talk about Venus being out of balance and how that's really causing some craziness with our finances last week and also this week as well. And so you might stand back and do a stock take of your financial situation and go, oh my God, what is going on here? But it is a good energy for putting some changes in place and restructuring things. Saturn is to restructuring your financial situation to help you out materially in the future, because Saturn wants to look long term at something. What is happening in the distance? How can I set up my budget that's going to get me into a solid, strong place in the long term, bit by bit? So it is a good energy for looking at that and doing some restructuring there. But validation and self-worth needs to come from inside of you now. This is a house of self-sufficiency. And so self-sufficiency in material goods, yes, but particularly self-sufficiency in worthiness. If you're looking to be validated from an authoritarian figure, you know, somebody who has authority, someone who has expertise or whatever, you know, and you want their approval, that might be a father figure, could be a mother figure, it could be a boss, it could be like anybody. If you're looking for that validation from outside of you, not this week. You must find your worthiness, Libra. And you know, Librans are so concerned with others and how other people perceive us. It's time to step back from that and say, you know, how do I perceive myself? How do I value myself? How do I honor myself? And the self-worth must come from within now. Like I said, this is a house of self-sufficiency, so it's time to embrace the material world of self-sufficiency, like buying, but producing your own food might be one version of self-sufficiency, obviously, but also producing your own self-perception and your own identity, Sun in the 2nd house, producing that from your own inner generated sense of worth and value. I hope you're getting where I'm coming from here. So due to the heaviness of this transit, Saturn Square, you might feel very unsupported externally under this energy. But turn your attention within. Be prepared to work on changing your understanding of self so that you can now be the source of support that you really need. You know, I've had to do this. I'm a Libra moon person, and I've had to do this lately. You know, I've established a veggie garden that's now feeding myself and my 4 children. So quite tangible self-sufficiency going on there, and I've turned from looking outside of me for people to provide me with food to I'm going to do it myself. We might also look at, okay, well, how can I love myself and not give 2 hoots about what everybody out there thinks of me? And I've been doing that work for a long time, but I've read a really good book recently, Librans, The Courage to Be Disliked. Excellent book, check it out. It is a really great support tool for generating that inner self-love that doesn't need to look outside of ourselves for validation and approval. So I just recommend that. So realize that you, Librans, can be the change in the world that is needed, but it's got to start from within. That you are really all you need, Libra. And this is a lesson not easily accomplished by a sign that is so geared towards other people, but I know you can do it, Libra. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So focus on the self-sufficiency this week and doing it in healthy ways, and maybe restructuring your life to be more self-sufficient. And then if you do that, you will be really harnessing the best energy of the Saturn Square. Do watch out, Librans, for feeling melancholy and down and unworthy, because Saturn will want to tempt you into that rabbit hole, but instead focus on generating your own self-love and self-sufficiency, and you can go a long way towards counteracting that. So that's the end of our whiz around the horoscope for this week. It's been lovely to have you with me. I always close with a prayer, and this week won't be any different. Energy of love, we just ask that you wrap yourself around this planet and all its people at this time, because we're desperately in need of some love and kindness from everywhere, to one another and from those in positions of authority down to those who are not. We just ask for love, and more love to flow throughout this world. We ask that love stops us from the infighting that is present, the whole divide and conquer thing. Please usurp that through the energy of love and the highest vibration of joy. And so it is. Well, thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to sharing more astro news with you next week. I'll catch you then.